This is working out great, isn't it?
This is not a good thing. Apparently, we haven't spent that much time together. It's not just we good.
All right. Good morning and welcome to the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 9 a.m. And the first item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. The next item is discussion and possible action to approve the resolution 09-27-21-01, abating taxes on the parcel owned by the city of Muscatine with the city of Muscatine planner April Lindbergh. And this is,
Good morning.
Good morning, April.
So the city of Muscatine has obtained that property at 1246 East Fifth Street. There were some back taxes on that property. We are asking if you guys would abate those back taxes. The house is actually coming down. It is halfway down itself, collapsing on itself. There'll be contractors out from Solsco this week, which will continue to demolish that parcel, or the house on that parcel. The city, once it is down and completely completed, will go back to a redeveloped stage, and then we will market that property to put it back on the tax roll.
is it an empty lot?
It will, once the house is demolished, it will be an empty lot.
So they're gonna remove the foundation footings, the whole works, and then take it down so it's developable and.
Yes, sir.
And your intention is to get it back into the tax rolls for the city.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So I'd move to approve.
I'd second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any further discussion? All right, this is a roll call vote. Doug?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. And Jeff?
Aye.
All right, 4-0, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, April.
Moving on to items with planning and zoning administrator Eric Furness. First item is item number A, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 09-27-21-02 in the approval of a combined preliminary and final plat for the Hetzler Corner number 17.
Hey, good morning. This is a two-lot agricultural subdivision right at Highway 38 and 170th Street. Subdivision was required to split this parcel again because there had been a previous split where the existing farmhouse had been split off. The owner of the property is seeking to sell some of the farm ground to an adjoining landowner and retain the balance of it. So it's pretty simple. It all remains zoned agricultural. It was just triggered subdivision based on a previous split in that quarter section. So there'd be about 16.79 acres that the owner, I believe, is retaining in, or last I heard, and then another lot of about, they have that labeled, 60 acres more or less that he's selling off to a neighbor. And I think his representative is here if there's any other questions.
This is the one where the waterway separates.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay, I read the zoning minutes on that.
Pretty straightforward stuff.
So I'd move to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Doug?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. And Jeff?
Aye.
4-0, thank you on that one. The next item is item B, discussion and possible action to approve the resolution 09-27-21-03 and the approval of a combined preliminary and final plat of David W. Johnson Trust subdivision.
Yep, this is a one-lot agricultural subdivision, similar circumstances. The original quarter had been split previously into a couple 20-acre pieces. The people that are taking care of the trust had to file for a subdivision plat. They want to be able to split off an existing house and a few agricultural outbuildings to sell, and then the remainder of the farm ground with some grain bins and a barn will be retained. Again, everything remains zoned agricultural, so there's no potential for development. It just, again, was necessitated by a previous split of the quarter. This is the one that did require a variance, because
That
the
was
way they
the-
wanted to separate the parcel, it didn't allow for setbacks between some of the outbuildings that will remain in the
Right.
house. So the Board of Adjustment, you had, I believe, remanded that one back. They took another look at it, made it conditional upon only for the life of the affected buildings. Obviously, any new buildings would have to meet setbacks.
Yeah, it looks like that's the one that runs tight between the bins and that barn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
I just have a question here. Is the access to those grain bins independent from the other parcel from lot one? Has to be.
I believe there's another field entrance there somewhere, either to the east or the
Has
west,
to be.
that they could access it from the field.
There,
Yeah.
there's a field driveway,
Okay, to access those bins.
but the bins, there's a regular driveway that goes through.
Okay. Okay, very good. My thought just hit me as far as, if it needed an easement to go in there.
It
so-
will need an easement,
It will need an easement?
yes.
Okay. Okay, very good.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion by Jeff,
You
We
need
need a
a second?
second.
I'll second.
a second by Scott. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Doug? Aye. Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. And Jeff?
Aye.
All right, 4-0. Thank you so much. I know that one's gone back and forth quite a bit there, you guys. So, appreciate that. We didn't want to make that, but it turned out that way. So, thank you. Yep. All right, so moving on to item number C, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 09-27-21-04 in the approval of the combined preliminary and final plat of
Aquatree.
Aquatree subdivision. Apologize for that.
Yep, one lot agricultural subdivision, kind of the same story. The quarter had been split previously one time, so it necessitated subdivision proceedings. This allows Mr. Aquatree to split off approximately 6.16 acres around an existing house and then retain the balance of the farm ground. I think the parent parcels were about 75.5 acres. He would retain the rest of it, just allows it to split off around an existing house. Everything's still agriculturally zoned in that.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none. Doug, how do you vote?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. And Jeff?
Aye.
All right.
I kind of promised you a little update on the jail project last week as far as this final schedule. We had our bi-weekly progress meeting last Wednesday. Right now, they kind of estimate they're running about 2.5 weeks behind what the schedule they hope to stay on. They are getting information from some of their suppliers that there's a possible delay coming with some of the roof insulation to be delivered. They're pushing back and working and looking at alternatives to see what's available out there, but hoping that won't cause any great delays. But they're doing a good job of trying to look forward and plan for the next phase, because they knew going into this there could be issues with actual product delivery, and so they're reaching out and trying to firm up things well ahead of needing them. But this is the one thing so far that they're saying, oh, we're not sure if we're gonna be able to meet that deadline. So,
They were up on the roof this morning. I saw
yeah,
that.
they're getting prepared to move on that portion, but that's the last we heard, that they're still, the distributor is still hesitant to commit to the date that it needs to be on site. So with their 2.5 weeks, final completion date right now is looking more like the middle of December as opposed to the end of November. Looking at switching over to phase 2, hopefully around early November. So that'll be kind of a big milestone, because that, means that phase 1 is essentially done.
Yeah.
So And in phase one was the by far more complicated phase, but more unforeseen. Definitely we hope that things will be considerably smoother in phase two, because phase one was a lot more complicated, so.
And the impact on operations, I haven't heard anything, been okay?
There's been hiccups along the way. It's a very complicated building with a lot of security measures and technical controls, and whenever you temporarily reroute wiring and try to take portions of HVAC offline with the amount of control systems they have, there's hiccups almost every day of something not working. Oscar and his team have been scrambling very hard to try to keep things going. I do want to give them a shout out. They've been called in several times. It's always at the end of the day on a Friday when something stops working.
That's the way things work.
So they've been working really hard, so I do want to give them a shout out for trying to address those issues as they come up.
Good.
So I think that's all I have.
So, well, I'd like to see when you guys do get that completed, I'd like to see if we could, maybe, I don't know if all of us, but I think maybe a tour or something, maybe you could set something up, at least to kind of see how that completion looks like.
Phase one.
No, at least both, I don't think it's gonna, I mean, I don't wanna intrude in the middle of anything if that's not too much.
Well, just before phase one to phase two switchover might be a good time if you
Okay.
wanted to take a walk through it, because it'll be, nearly complete, and you can really start to see what the changes look like. Because then there'll be, the whole thing will start over again, rerouting, switching.
Okay.
But
If that works, just,
we can schedule something.
yeah, whenever you guys feel like you're ready, and then you let me know, send me an email, and I'd like to. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 5, items with the county engineer, Keith White. And the first item is item A, and discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have 2 permits this morning, both from Muscatine Power and Water of Muscatine, Iowa. And the first is to bore fiber in the east right-of-way on North Mulberry from Sunflower Road to Bayfield Road. And the second is to plow and bore fiber on 200th Street, starting near their electric substation, which is on 200th, and going west to the end of 200.
Okay,
I'd move to approve.
motion by Scott,
Second.
seconded by Jeff. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Next permit?
Projects update, the bridge northeast of Nichols, Schroeder has moved in and closed the road. They're setting up their crane, and when they get that done, they'll start tearing out the bridge. We are involved up on Old Highway 6, F-58. It's actually a Scott County, it's a joint project because it's 50/50, but there's patching work going on up there, which we're actually overseeing the work. Scott County did the design and wrote the contract, so that's happening. And then Denko is moving in today, and they're actually, anybody sees weird, they're chain dragging bridges. It's a real, it is the real thing, to find delaminated places. They're doing patching on bridges throughout the county, so chain dragging and painting spots today, start saw cutting, and actually I think they're gonna start on, there's one on F-70, but they'll be working throughout the county. That's basically what's going on.
Pete, where we at on salt for this upcoming winter?
Well, I think we have a fair amount in the dome, so we'll probably be getting some more in here.
Okay.
We've got our contract out there, but we're certainly in good enough shape to get started.
Okay. I know we had talked possibly at the end of this fall / before we get into winter, at what we had also for hours or man hours spent on trash pickup in the county
Yeah.
from your employees. I was wondering if we could look at that sometime this next month, possibly.
We can
Um,
do that next Monday if you want.
Just depends on how your schedule. I knew you were still looking at that. We wanted to try to see how much you guys were spending during that summer. I know that it would be a good item to even bring up when we talk about our transfer station that we have coming up, because I know that that was a challenge that you guys are still putting in. And I don't think, if we have those numbers before our meeting on Wednesday, that would be good. But if not, that's understandable. I want to be able to at least put a point out there of how much you guys are putting in to the transfer station.
We have the numbers, they've been keeping track.
I don't have anything else. You guys have anything else for Keith?
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, the discussion and possible action to approve the renewal of Class C carryout beer, Class E, LE, and Sunday sales permit for Rife Oil Company on Stewart Road, the fast break on 2418 Stewart Road, Muscatine, Iowa.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 5-0. Okay, the next item is discussion and possible action to approve the renewal application for a Class C native wines and Sunday sales permit and outdoor service permit for Arden Creek Winery LLC, DBA Arden Creek and Winery at 2391 Independence Avenue in Letts, Iowa, pending the DRAM shop approval.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Jeff. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 4-0. Okay. The next item is item 8, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2021's regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Correspondence, Doug?
Had email about EMS and from Christy Roby Williams on the COVID update. That's all I had.
That's all you had. I had the same emails and nothing else to note.
Okay, and I had those similar emails. I did want to mention a little bit. I think I CC'd you in on that comment, Jeff, or I don't know if I did you, Jim. And the EMS comment came from trustee in West Liberty in regards to the new legislation that was approved at the state, asking if the county had looked at allocation for dollars for EMS. And I don't even believe that we have any direction. I don't even believe that legislature is written yet. I think it was just approved at the state.
Yeah, I reached out to our interim emergency manager, and, you know, he is aware of the legislation, talked about it. I believe the proper course and at this point is let the EMA commission deal with it. I'm a part of that. We'll have the conversation and they can tell the board of supervisors what our role might be or if there's anything they think is appropriate.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on the agenda for one of the next EMA commission meetings. I'll put a note to send that out to the chair.
I didn't reply to the gentleman, and I believe you guys all got the same one too, but it was just,
Yeah, I sent him, I just sent him a
Okay.
note back, said it's new to us and we'll look into it,
Yeah.
so.
Then I also got a call from a local employer here, restaurant, that they had some challenges with workforce development and issues with hiring or citing people for unemployment, and then nobody showing up, and she had 25 plus people in the last 2 weeks, and they're just signing to get unemployment, and so it was a struggle that they were continuing to have. Got the email on the new grant that was approved for MPW, and the expansion that they would be going into the county with new fiber. And I thought that was a positive. I think that came out in the newspaper as well too. And that's all I had on correspondence. Jeff?
Yeah, nothing further to note.
Doug, on, meetings?
Had none last week.
Scott?
On Monday, the 20th, we had the Conservation Board. Still continuing to work forward, trying to get some bids in on the paving the front area of the road leading back to the cabins. Hoping to have that project completed before the snow flies. And then I also, on Wednesday, the 22nd, I had Bi-State. That's all I had.
All right. On, I think it was Tuesday, how were they doing that date, where that paper's at?
Tuesday's 21st.
21st, I had the AIM meeting, and that's all I had.
On the 20th, I had the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region Board. That was an in-person meeting. We got a preliminary, I think I sent a copy to Nancy, and I think I gave her a heart attack. Kind of a budget ask, so, you know, again, the Eastern Iowa region is depending on the year, last year was pretty slow because people didn't reach out to services, but let's just say we run about $12 million a year in mental health expenditures. And we received kind of I don't wanna call it a wish list, or here's services that are mandated we must add, and here's what children's services it looks like we're gonna need to do, and it was about a $6.2 million ad. So we're gonna begin those discussions, I think we have a meeting scheduled this week or early next to begin budget discussions on those, and how we think we're
For
gonna.
the whole region, 6
Yeah,
million?
6 million for the region, which basically, one and a half, half of your budget, so, obviously that's probably not gonna work.
But how does the state governor, I mean, what the new governor's asked, I mean, didn't that change that?
Well, now you're talking about funding versus, so if you recall this year, they did a clawback, so basically the county taxpayer, well, from the property tax dollars, they went to like $21 for us, and then the state picked up the difference on the 3078 per capita in the region that we were doing. And then next year, the state takes it completely over, and then they're adding about, it's 36 per capita or something, so about another 1.8 million. Again, then do have child services that we have to add to our mental health services. So, there's just my math, there's a $4 million gap. Now, we do have as a region, because the last couple of years with the decrease in demands and services and some of the cuts we instituted, we have a budget balance, we have a fund balance in excess of what's allowed. And so, it's kind of a crazy process, the way the legislature define, they try to manage this like on a 2-year horizon, this fund balance, and then they'll basically penalize you if you have fund balance, and it reduces your ability to levy forward rather, it's kind of one of the craziest mechanisms I've ever seen, but we have to work through that challenge. So, I mean, more than likely, we're gonna have to spend fund balance and use it to fund some of the children's services. But we have to decide what of those will be sustainable. So when I get
6 million asked for us though?
No, 6 million for the region.
Okay, so everybody's
So
like
we're,
$1 million or something.
we're, Muscatine County is about 15% of the region per capita. So we would be, if you take that 16 million, theoretically, our taxpayer would have to, that money would, but it's gonna be state dollars, so it's not property tax dollars anymore in the next budgets we're talking about. So the question is, what's the state gonna do, and are they gonna step up to their commitments and keep their, now we have our fund balances, and I think there's still some debate, because we hold the funds here in our local counties in the region, and I think part of the legislation said by a certain date, we have to transfer all those to the fiscal agent, which is the regional bucket. I think that's a good thing, because you can put more controls on everybody's, how they're spending their dollars, but that process has not been worked out and vetted yet, so, more to come.
Okay, good.
But so when you if you recall, the legislation a year ago mandated that counties now take over and are responsible for the mental health services for the children's services as well as the adults. So now we are responsible for all of it. And the children's system is very complicated and it's very involved, and there's lots of providers. So it's gonna be a whole learning experience, and as you see, it's not gonna come at a low cost.
We'll work through it.
Yeah, one of the big cost items, and this'll, I was on I don't know, that was maybe 2 weeks ago, I was on the state mental health board meeting, and, you know, there are mandated services that we must provide, and I know the Seal region south of us, they have no bidders, nobody wants it. You know, they have like no eject, no reject, care that are, you know, so there are individuals that, you know, the rule is you can't throw them out and you have to take them, and there are really, nobody's interested in doing that business, it sounds like. So these are things I think the legislators and the mental health regions are gonna have to, yeah, we know where they are today. I think Captain McCleary's taking care of them today, but, you know, there are people in the society that we need to deal with, and we'll figure it out. It's, gotta find a provider. It's one thing to write a law, but you gotta find somebody willing to do the work. And I'm guessing there's some probably, litigation-driven hesitation there probably. So they'll have to do some work on code for that, but that's all I had.
Okay. So the next item is moving into items with the administration office. And item A is discussion and possible action to approve and authorize the chair to execute the FY 21-22 methamphetamine drug hotspot grant program contract in the
Just
amount
meth.
of $9,000.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Okay, the next item is discussion and possible action to set the public hearing for Monday, October 4th at 9 a.m. on a proposed agreement, collaborative partnership establishing the community grant writer position with the city of Muscatine and the Community Greater Foundation of Muscatine County. And this is just so you guys are aware, this is what I have been working on with the city of Muscatine, that they had just passed this approval last week, and Charla and Jim, in regards to providing a grant writer that would help in housing. It was also something that we reached out, looking at economic development, looking at the needs of the community, and this would be like a 1-year trial to see if there's an actual value, and knowing that there's a lot of dollars that the governor had just pushed out for housing, the $100 million plus that they just threw out, that this would be a unique opportunity for us to look at this and then leverage those dollars across the board.
In Santos, would it be a fair assumption that if the community foundation being involved, that this would include West Liberty, Wilton, some
Yes.
of our other communities that have needs and could benefit from a grant writer possibly?
Yes.
All
So,
the communities.
yeah, it would be everyone included in our county. That was one of the big positives with this potential. And again, this is just to set the public hearing, so there'd be an opportunity to ask some more,
Yeah,
and
okay.
have Charlotte and look at the.
So I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next item is discussion regarding the funding request for the Lower Cedar Watershed Management Authority.
So I asked Nancy to put this on the agenda. This is, and Eric will help me with this a little bit. As everyone remembers, 2 years ago, Eric? 2 or 3, almost 3 years ago, we were approached, the Nature Conservancy had put together a grant proposal and was awarded a grant for a watershed coordinator for the Lower Cedar watershed. So as, I don't know how aware, everybody has probably heard or seen all the, you know, the black zone in the Gulf of Mexico and all the fingers pointing in, for a lot of them in Iowa at farmers and ag runoff and nitrates and killing, you know, dead zone in the Gulf. And so I think the DNR's approach is this watershed approach. There's a number of these organizations that work, and kind of what they've found is for every dollar you spend on the head end of a watershed, you get $10 on the bottom of the watershed, because it's, you know, slow the water, deal with it before it gets down river. So the board at that time, we had kind of said, okay, you know, it's probably coming, the counties are gonna get involved, we'll participate. I've been on that board. I've kind of, cause I don't really know much about all that environmental stuff, so Eric has been with me all along and probably done the lion's share of the work. So that watershed group has come up and they've worked hard with volunteers. We've had a little bit of trouble keeping a coordinator. The gal that was the original coordinator with Nature Conservancy got a job with NRCS. So she left, we brought in another one, and, you know, they're working as a sub-grant, and they were working, I think, out of Johnson County Soil and Water instead of Muscatine. And they lasted about a month or two, maybe, at most. And so now the Nature Conservancy has decided they're gonna turn back the grant dollars, they don't wanna mess with it anymore. And so we have no watershed coordinator. We are in the middle, we are awarded about $120,000 grant from DNR to do a watershed management plan, which says you look at the issues in the watershed, you measure all the stuff, you see where the problems are, and then you kind of come up with potential projects. So what we're finding is, you know, and mostly volunteers are doing that work today. But the question is, you know, I think, so now there's a proposal that we need to fund a coordinator. Should we fund a coordinator on this, if this group is gonna be successful? And so they went through all of these gyrations. Again, I gave Nancy a bit of a heart attack. I sent her about 50 different analyses on population, valuation, benefit, you know, all kinds of different ways to carve that animal up. But the bottom line is, Muscatine County, whether you do a part-time person or you full-time, it's either 50,000 a year or 100,000 a year. You know, our contribution would be $10,000 to $12,000. That Muscatine County's fair share, and you could argue that would be to do that. So I think I need direction from the board on what you all think we should do.
I want to clarify that 10 to 12 per year.
Per year, yes,
Assuming
per
it went
year.
more than 1 year.
Yeah, because, you know, and I want to know what the board's intentions are. You know, we kind of did this as a, okay, you know, kind of understand what's going on thing. But, you know, do we want to commit to long-term funding? I think if you recall our conversations initially, the big concern we had was, most of these entities that are a part of this watershed group have taxing authority. And we just didn't want to see another tax on property owners. And so we wanted to keep abreast of what was going on and who was doing what and how this might shake down. So I think that's kind of where we are. They've got that grant. The engineering firm is probably, what, Eric, maybe another 3 to 4 months from delivering
The comprehensive watershed management plan.
like January kind of timeframe.
So the 120,000 that the DNR gives,
That was a grant
okay.
that was written by the watershed coordinator and the group involved with it, to do a watershed management plan.
Oh, so that can't be used for the funding of this position.
It was about 100,000, DNR section 319 grant. About 80,000 went to fire engineers who the WMA board chose as the consultant. And then there was about 20,000 that was used for water quality testing up and down the watershed to give to the plant writers to identify the most at-risk areas within the watershed. So there was about 100,000 total for that grant for the consultant and the test.
So I think, and so what's happened in reality, right? You talk about in theory, So in reality, what's happened is, even this grant, Johnson County, which I don't feel sorry for them, but they've been cash flowing this because, you know, the grants, the DNR pays them back, what, maybe once a quarter? I don't know, those folks, and these are basically wages. And so Johnson County, and they've done it willingly, and they're not complaining, but it really, if they asked Muscatine County to do that, we wouldn't be very happy about that. And then we'll have to go through a whole employer of record and all that kind of stuff too. So I just wanna know kind of what the board's feelings are, cause this is a voluntary organization, we joined it, we could leave it. But my fear, you know, kind of originally was, if we aren't active, then who's gonna do something to us that we won't have a say in? That's my biggest concern. Because it's coming. Everybody's blaming farmers in Iowa for everything, and it's like, well, I don't think it's just farms.
What's the end game here? And when I say this, is the end game to get landowners to be more proactive in their participation with, say, NRCS on the federal levels and things to put in buffer strips and so on and so forth? I understand your point, but I don't understand what the long game solution is here that isn't already established with, at the federal level here, like I say, NRCS and so on and so forth. What am I,
So
help me with this.
The textbook politically correct answer is, that is what the comprehensive watershed management plan hopes to identify. That the issues within the watershed and the potential mitigation measures to address those issues. That, the end game is to, my understanding when we joined the WMA was, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. It has flood control, potentially flood control value projects that we do, and water quality improvement value. That's what WMAs primarily deal with, is flood control and water quality. It's a lot like hazard mitigation. You need to study what your risks are within your particular area, have that identified, have long-term goals stated within your plan, then, and only then can you go after these federal dollars. We've identified landslides or tornadoes and, you know, with our hazard mitigation. If it's not in a plan, you're probably not gonna get the big funding for it. So, the first step was to get this consultant hired that would do this comprehensive management plan. What are the issues? Is it water quality? Is it flooding? As we know, we're gonna have both within the Cedar River watershed. Identify those and then come up with some potential mitigation efforts that everybody can, the plan would hopefully rank those, what's the best bang for the buck as far as mitigation of those issues, and then you go after grant money. It could be, terraces, providing funding for farmers to put terraces in to slow runoff and sedimentation. It could be leasing or buying filter strips on ag ground to slow runoff into drainage ditches. There's a lot of potential projects. It can be ponds. One watershed put in like 75 ponds in the county on private land. The grant paid for it. It slows runoff, settlement, water control and flooding addressed. I don't know that it would get big enough to compete with like hazard mitigation purchasing, like what FEMA does for properties in the floodplain. Where I see this being steered generally is the water quality, because as Jeff mentioned, that is an issue. We've heard this from well and septic trainings for years that we go to, that there's a lot of finger pointing right back to Iowa and Illinois because of the acres of corn production. When you're looking at that Gulf of Mexico dead zone, and I think the DNR is slowly trying to get more proactive projects going, because the fear is if we don't do something, the feds could step in and just start mandating water quality improvement. And so that's kind of the whole idea of WMA, is to identify things at a local level, most bang for the buck, hopefully, and address those before we're just forced to do something by some group in Washington, D.C.
And I will say that I've seen, you know, it's not like there's nothing going on. You know, I know Soybean Association is doing quite a bit of work in Cedar County and so I view it more as an organization to coordinate the efforts and pull them together instead of having bits and pieces. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of organizations, you know. You know, I'd kinda asked in the watershed, cause there's at least coordinators from 3 other watersheds on the lower Cedar, and I said, well, is there a roll-up strategy we could employ? How many watershed coordinators do I need? Could we combine some of these smaller watersheds that feed into the lower Cedar and have one coordinator do it all? And I got a lot of pushback on that. There's too much work, apparently. But, you know, I don't know, I'm kinda torn on it. I don't really know what they do. All I know is it costs money to get grants. And you know, this is a group trying to get grants. And if we can help our farmers get grants to make improvements on their land, you know, I'm good with that. You know, how much, 10 to 12,000, you know.
So when you say 10 to 12, is that combined with then other
Oh,
counties?
yeah, oh, yeah, this is, you know, it's 100,000 total, so, you know, that basically you've got Cedar, Johnson, and Muscatine and Lynn counties involved, and then there's 27 members?
Yeah.
And that'll be a little bit of the issue, cause like in Lynn County, they're already contributing pretty heavily to a couple other watersheds, and I'm just gonna guess they're gonna start bulking at some point.
So maybe then, I mean, I guess what my question is what would then be the ask if we don't even know what their reply will be?
Well, I think I think what the ask is gonna be to Muscatine County, we'll have to slug that out, whether it's a full-time or part-time position. But I think Muscatine County would be asked to commit to $10,000 a year in funding.
Or, I'd say a little more than that.
Probably more than that, $12,000 a year, let's say, maybe more. And, you know, what's this board's opinion on that? It's kind of where I wanna see to where they head. Personally, I could probably support a 3-year risk to evaluate the success of the group. But I don't wanna, I would not be comfortable committing to long-term funding. I would, you know, if we could, I would be on board with saying, maybe we say, you know, we will do a 3 or 4 year. It's taken 3 years just to get one big grant to get a plan done. So maybe it's a 5-year, maybe we commit 12,000 a year for 5 years to this organization. Now, there's been some other conversations, I'll tell you, around what's the federal money thing?
The recovery dollars.
The recovery dollars. John Bell had in Cedar County, cause I think Cedar County's gonna have trouble coming up with money, cause they got a bulk of the watershed in theirs. John Bell had broached the idea, could we use the recovery dollars, which, you know, we're gonna be challenged to find things we can use them on that's fit.
I mean, it is.
And I don't think we
hazard-
know.
It could potentially be hazard mitigation, it could fall.
If we
under
could use-
water quality.
Well, I think the water quality, the feds may allow us, the county, but, you know, then that's gonna be, you know, most grants, you can't use grant funds to match grant funds. So if we're using grant funds to fund this position, can we use those grant funds to get other grants? I don't know. That'll be, Nancy will figure that out, if we can do that or not. But the question, I think, for me to this board, and I'm kind of torn on it. I guess what I would probably say I'd be supportive of is 3 to 5 years at up to 15,000 a year is what I would say would be max that I would wanna
And
go into.
Sherry's on vacation this week, but she did also want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out to you that if this is a decision that you make and it happens yet this fiscal year, you guys have, we intentionally budgeted a deficit budget, which means we intended to spend carryover. You guys have increased that about 100,000 with things that you've approved after the budget was already in place, so this would be add on to that pile.
Okay. Yeah, and I believe the intent of the WMA and the conversations we this would be an ask for the next budget commitment. Cause everybody's doing budgets, you know, start in November, December, January, and we wanna get into the next budget cycle.
That would make more sense.
I might, I mean, I serve at your pleasure, and this is your decision, but it might be something to think about as you're considering pledging for 1, 2, 3, 5 years. You know, I think the biggest thing is hiring and maintaining a competent coordinator, and that, you know, the focus should be on that first. And, you know, hey, we're willing to fund this to see if we can maintain. If the stark reality is, if we cannot maintain a coordinator, we're gonna continue to just tread water. It's beyond the scope of what us members, I'm on the technical advisory committee, we ended up having to write the RFPs, review the bids. It's just way more time than I can continue to allot, and the other people as well. We really need a coordinator. If we cannot hold a coordinator, fund and hold, whether they're jumping employment, I don't have a lot of faith that this is gonna be a successful venture. So, you know, if it makes you feel safer to kind of, it's conditional upon this for the first year or two, you know, and then if we get a coordinator and our plan comes together, they can really identify, here's the money that's available, because right now it's all just kind of pie in the sky, hope that these funds are there. But that's the stark reality. If we can't.
Yeah, that's been, I mean, there was good things going when Holly started in the Nature Conservancy, and then when she went to another role, now she's stayed on and still helping, but she's got a full-time job too. And it just hasn't, you know, you can feel the momentum sliding a little bit, but, you know, they've got the third-party, you know, group in there, so, yeah, I'm kind of, that's why I wanted to have the conversation to see what everybody was thinking. Cause I know this was you know, our local Farm Bureau has been pretty involved. Carrie Gruenhagen's attended every meeting, and we've had those conversations, Carrie and I, and I think we all share, you know, kind of what has happened is, you know, this is, you know, so when we've been SANS coordinator and we just had volunteers helping, you know, there were some social media things that had gotten set up or out there, and then there were some pretty negative things posted on the watersheds, anti-farming things, and that is not, I'm not gonna support an anti-ag group if this, and so, you know, I think that's the problem you have if you have an organization and you don't have somebody that's accountable to it. These things can happen, and somebody didn't nip those posts in the bud when they should have, you know, unrelated and uncalled for, but it still looks like it was a statement by the watershed.
And for
It was not.
clarification, Jeff's not asking for you guys to make a commitment today. He just wants some
I
direction.
want direction for my conversations with.
I think it's a good proactive plan myself. And when you say having the feds come in and start implementing plans, that scares me.
For the state.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still back at the projects thing. And I can see the projects that could be funded with this could be, I'll call them non-ongoing cost projects, as in terraces or retention ponds. But what won't work in this, in my mind, is any type of ground that comes out of production and you're paid annually in that regard. That doesn't work with this as I got it in my little brain here. But I can certainly see the value of this at this level on projects that don't have ongoing costs, projects that help the flow of water, as in retention ponds, as in terracing. I can see that 100%. I think that's a great line of thought. I think it's a great idea. Don't know if we can get it off the ground like you said, Jeff, and because it doesn't matter annually the amount of dollars. I mean, you don't have to sit there and say, well, you're going to have to come up with $500,000 or $2 million or $5 million to make this work forward year after year. You can take whatever amount of dollars you have and do X amount of projects, even if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. So I see the value of it, certainly.
Well, I think, you know, that whole coordinator thing, I think it's kind of like with hazard mitigation, when we have a plan, we're more successful attracting dollars. And, you know, I don't know, because it's not what I do, how connected some of all of our farmers and our ag folks are to the resources available. But this, you know, this coordinator is gonna do outreach and, you know, kind of that kind of stuff as well, and help connecting people to the money, cause I don't see this WMA funding anything. It's just a coordinator to get in plans, you know, getting the plan, so then now if Virgil wants to go out and terrace something, here's where I fit on the plan, so he could attract potentially some investment by the federal government or whomever, or DNR grant.
No, I get it.
To help him get that work done. That's
I get it.
the value I see it could bring, but I don't know how to quantify that.
I don't either, but I understand what and how this can work by having a group or an individual that is able to find sourcing for this type of a project.
I think I'm a lot concerned that you're gonna be successful getting a coordinator. Because you really don't have, you know, the first one was, I mean, it was Nature Conservancy employee, basically, but they're like contract employees. And then when it moved to the Johnson County SWCD, I mean, that was just really paying paychecks. I just don't know. I didn't see the applicants and I didn't see what happened, so.
I don't wanna speak too out of turn. I think if the coordinator position was funded at a competitive, salary, I just wanna say, I think there would be some qualified candidates, that's all I'm gonna say at this juncture, that would do a good job. It is a challenge when we don't have a WMA building for the Lower Cedar watershed. So they're going to be placed somewhere in some county, some SWCD office, and there's been some little conflicts with, well, you know, your position's only part of your hours here and what their meeting supervisor feels like they should be doing, and who, you know, where do benefits come from? So that would have to be worked through. But I am hopeful that if there was a competitive salary for it, if the funding was there, that we could get someone that could.
And with that being said, you know, you think about this a little bit more, are you running direct competition, that's probably not the right word, competition is not the right word, but against NRCS and all the programs that they have there, which, as you well know, fluctuate and up and down, and when dollars are there and when they're not there, and I mean, it can be a situation where you have an idea for some watershed management, but there's no program currently at NRCS, but there might be next year, there might be in 3 years, or there might be in 5 years, you know. I mean, as I think about this more, I don't know. I just don't know if this whole idea is going to run in direct competition with NRCS. But there again, on the other side of the coin, if you had a manager of this operation on a local level, I'll say, that individual would be able to look at all the programs in place and the programs up and coming with NRCS, as well as on a local level, to be able to say, you know, they think they have money next year, or, you know, this might be something that you can apply for. It might be good for the information out there for the person, just to bring to light the programs that are available, because they are very complicated. They're very complicated.
It could be, there would be opportunities where they could complement funding that NRCS already utilizes too.
Yeah.
If there's a normal private owner share, say NRCS pays 75% of a pond, retention pond, and the owner is contemplating entering into that project, possibly WMA grants could pay for, you know, that other 25%. I don't know. I think there's a potential for both, some competition and complementing what NRCS already does. They're tied very tightly to a specific set of rules, and the farm bill changes, and NRCS, just like you pointed out, one year there may be funding for this, and
I can see this, you know, you think about this as this conversation goes on, I can see this working jointly, quite well, really. When you look at programs and projects that are only, that only, do structure type projects that have no ongoing cost, and being able to tie that in with some federal projects that have annual payment situation. I mean, you could tie these together quite nicely but it's gonna be some effort. I mean, this isn't easy for the landowner. You have to have some drive and motivation to do this, you know, but that's what happens with all good things though. It has a common denominator. It's called work. Right? Yeah. But the results can be wonderful.
Yeah, okay.
So
I don't even know, Nancy, maybe I'll reach out again and I'll reach out to the chair, John Bell out of Cedar, and talk to him about what they wanna do in November. Cause we're not gonna be able to make any kind of a financial commitment until March of next year. We don't have it budgeted, we'd have to go through a budget process. So I don't know that the board would necessarily need to take any action. We could do that in budget deliberations, I would think.
I would agree. At this point, you're just looking for direction.
I'm just looking for
But if you can go
direction.
back to the table, go back and say,
So it sounds like we're probably all
we would
about,
consider putting money on the table.
Yeah, and I think my only ask from Eric and his team would be is, you know, can we have that role a little bit defined?
it's got a pretty good job description
And
with
so,
it.
yeah,
I mean,
if
it's
there
all-
is, I think that's what I'd like to look at,
Yeah.
and then, in my mind, I'm only thinking a year, but then, if there's justification needed for longer, help me understand why, and I think you mentioned some of those points, but that's really my only comments in looking at it.
So
If it needs to be a 3-year, then help me understand why.
I'll talk to John Bell and see what the thoughts are, and then I'll get back whether we need to do anything before, but, my intention would be to make it part of the budget process, because we're not gonna jump into the middle of a fiscal year and do something crazy.
I agree with that.
Too many
We
crazy.
appreciate that.
All right, well,
Okay.
good discussion on that. We are on to item D, which is any other.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, so then moving on to item number 12, and this is the opportunity now for information from county employees. If there's any information from county employees.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to remind everybody, this is the last week to pay property taxes, so they're due by September 30th. Postmarked or dropped in the drop box or coming in. I think we're right on track of where we've been. I did wanna mention, we're having some really inconsistent times with our mail carriers. Our mail can get here at 11 or it can get here at 4. And we've called out there and it's just, we don't have a regular carrier, so we're at their mercy of who picks up our route, whether they come early or they come late. And that's been going on this full year. I know we had a problem as late as last year's election time with ballots and things, so it may be something, and I don't know what procedures need to be, but I'm looking into maybe going back to a PO box, picking the mail up ourselves. But I don't know if that's something that we have to do all together or separately, or, so I was gonna ask Nancy for direction on that too.
Yeah, I'd be a little concerned when it gets to election time, cause Tybie's got a lot of hard dates and hard times that she has to hit, and you wouldn't want just a delay of delivering from
Well, and
where
part of
mile
mine,
it is to cost a day.
part of it too is, there's a responsibility of picking up the mail ourselves,
Yeah.
Cause I've said, I don't like to do that, if a envelope drops out and, it's.
Chain of
floating around there,
custody and
somebody's
ballots and
tax
things, you got
payments
all
or
kinds of
ballots
issues,
or
so.
whatnot. But I've tried to call, we don't have a, postmaster per se, there's just supervisors there. The post office experiences the same problem everybody else is with employment, shortages. And, there's some now, we have an employee that has a staff at the post office, and in other cities, they're closing down and the supervisors are out delivering the mail and they're not open to the, which sounds crazy, but it's happening more and more places, so, it's just something I think we all need to be thinking about, because I've called several times and, they honestly can't tell us when our mail's coming, and there's been a day or two that they haven't got here before we closed at 4:30, so that's
Yeah.
not really.
I know that's a fact, because I have a different carrier every day. I might have the
And we
same
have
one for 2
some,
days.
some departments, this is a big deal for.
It's crucial for.
We have
for a lot of
some
us.
departments that's not really a big deal for in terms of when they get the mail, but we certainly have a couple of departments where that's a big deal, and I've tried talking to the post office as well. It's due to employee shortages, and there's really nothing they can do about it either, so.
So if we were to do what you're asking, how would that even look like? I mean, you would actually look at wanting to send yourself or somebody from your staff to pick up the mail? And
Well, I mean, when I first started, we had a PO box, so, somebody would go out, and I think it was the elected official that went, picked up the mail and brought it back. It's not something I'm in real favor of, but at the same time, I wanna get my mail every day, and I'd like to know that I'm gonna get it at a regular time and not at the end of the day. But
Yeah, it's hard to manage your staff time.
we've gone at times and picked it up on Saturdays, just during this heavy tax month, you know, to get a head on payments and processing. And when I go, sometimes I get, questioned. Other times I've gone and picked up everybody's mail, and then we bring it back here and sort it, but I'm not really comfortable with that either, because I really don't like taking the responsibility for my own. let
There's some
alone,
liability there.
There is some, so that's why it's gonna be quite expensive if every department has to get a PO box, you know. And like Nancy said, some of them, it's not as crucial as others, but, it's just something I think we need to think about. I'll get some numbers and ask some questions, but I know it's gonna be a problem for the auditor's office and.
But when the mail comes here, do they bring it in a big tub and they just bring it for everybody? Isn't it, I mean,
Yeah,
or
but
do they
they
actually
it.
sort
We have
through?
boxes,
Yeah, like
separate
they go out there and the
boxes that it gets
postman will
locked
sort
in.
them into the box.
Yeah, we have the locked container in the front that has different compartments for different departments, and so it goes into there. And then each department has their own key to access their own mail.
A lot of our mail is still going over to the courthouse. They make it out to the treasurer's office with the courthouse address, and they just bring it over.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it's a problem. It's not getting any better. I keep thinking it's gonna improve, but it's getting kind of worse, I think.
Okay. We'll have to see
Figure
where
it
we're
out.
at, you know, I think, I mean, the only thing I would suggest is just, you know, is there a value in a trial? But, you know, is that gonna be for a month, is that for 6 months, is that for, or is that something, you know, and I think about how I've seen it at local businesses, and there's multiple different departments, they just bring it in a big bundle, and then somebody in that staff then separates it to all the different departments. I don't know if there's value in that, I think that would be a challenge, but it may be just if you're wanting to get your mail sooner, but that would begin warrant somebody to go up there, grab the whole bundle, and then bring it back, and then you're the one out here sorting it.
well, if it's not all or nothing, it
Yeah.
might make sense for a couple of departments to get post office boxes and have an employee assigned to do that function, but the rest of it will continue to be
Yeah,
delivered here.
if it's not critical,
Right, it's,
you know, there's no reason to pay the fee. Is it an annual fee for a PO box? It is, isn't it?
I believe
so,
so.
but I really haven't
Yeah.
looked into it. And,
Depends
you
on the
know,
size.
it's the size too, because we have 2 boxes here, and most months it's fine, but in September and March, both of our boxes are completely full. Our small boxes here, but, so then it's like, what size do you need for year round? So it's,
Well, you just buy whatever it takes.
that's right. So I'll do some more checking into
Yeah,
it.
and then, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if it ends up making your process work better, if that's what you think is the best option, I mean, I'm open to hearing it, you know, see what other options we have, but if the mail's not getting any better, there's a long-term plan, and I don't think if they're improving, we need to look at options for you to be able to continue to get mail.
Well, and it just brings us to the same point, we're seeing a lot more online payments, and that's cheaper than a postage stamp now to pay online with an e-check for a quarter, so
You know,
if people do that, then they don't have to worry about the mail delivery.
correct. Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right, any other county employees? Claire?
Hi, Sheriff Weeks asked me to come in and just give you guys some information. In reference to last Monday, we had what are referred to as public auditor come and visit county buildings, city buildings. Auditor went around. Ultimately, he went to the city hall and was arrested by the Muscatine Police Department. He was brought to the jail. That created, after that disruption, it created an additional disruption with the amount of phone calls that Muscom had received and the jail received. There was approximately 200 to 270 phone calls that Muscom had received, so it caused some disruptions in theirs, in their operations, and it would be our expectation that we see additional public auditors in the future. So I think all the different public entities need to be aware of that. So that's
So there was a public auditor that was arrested?
Oh, you didn't see? I'll send it to you. Grandma came.
Grandma came to
Grandma
visit.
came.
No, but you mean like an actual somebody that was audited?
no, they're YouTube influencers that call themselves public auditors.
That's not the same thing then, okay, I thought it was actually an actual audit that we somehow arrested.
No, they come and want to film.
They
public
come and film in
locations.
public buildings
Okay.
and, you know,
I thought we had that stuff already approved, well, that was just for the courthouse.
He came in a orange jumpsuit with a wig and lipstick on and a video camera and basically went wherever he could go to get somebody to react with him or tell him no, and then he would say it's not posted, so I can be here. And so that's what, and he went, started at the police department, went to the jail, the courthouse, here,
Okay.
my office, and then city hall.
And
and
my
didn't have a
office.
problem. He had
He
one,
didn't have a
My
problem
office,
until he
yeah.
got to city hall.
got the city hall into one department.
I see.
And then.
Well, that also poses the discussion that we had at one time when we had the courthouse. We identified locations that we knew we wanted to identify, and if maybe that needs to be a
And
discussion for
that's
better posting or more monitoring around some of those things and saying, hey, we need to have that public information posted better. That may
Well,
be.
Jim and I had that discussion, and I think our intent would be to work with the departments in this building at least, and
Yeah.
determine where we need signage. And you can we certainly encourage other departments to,
Yeah.
do it if they feel that it's needed. We'll talk to community services as well.
So that was not a public auditor.
No.
Well, I mean, it
Well,
was, but I guess.
I'll send you the YouTube.
Yes, yeah, their definition of public.
Several of us made the video.
I see, I see.
I didn't see you on the video.
Oh, yeah. I was coming in here.
I did.
just-
Yeah, I saw
No,
it.
the one I saw was all at City Hall.
Now,
There's a longer one.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah, there's
That
a
has
20-minute
all-
one.
Well,
That has everybody interact with here. so.
Nancy and I and.
We all
well,
made it.
Your office would have made it.
Yeah.
So, Captain, I think we're good, I think I understand that portion of it, if there's any other things that you think that would be good for our preventative measures, let us know.
The video that was popular, a lot of people seen, there was a follow-up video to the arrest. There is several other public auditors, and they talk about Muscatine County being a hotspot going forward, so
Oh,
that's important to be aware.
well, that's good that we're able to look at some of those things, and we'll have some follow-up.
Did they
I'm sure.
visit you, Keith? No. Oh, good.
Well, now,
They will now. Kurt?
It doesn't help when everybody's looking at it, you're only improving his numbers there,
Yeah,
giving him
that's
paid
exactly
more, so
right.
you don't need to share it with me, you already told me I don't need to see it. So
Yeah, you don't need to
it's
say.
not missing out anything, I'm sure. All right, moving on from any other county employees?
I just want to give an invite to you guys and to the public. This weekend, we are holding open houses at the cabins on Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. And people who come and look through the cabins, we will have a special drawing for a 2-night stay at the cabin. So a little incentive to come down,
What,
look at our facilities,
What
1
dates?
till 4 p.m. on
but what
Saturday.
dates are they, October?
October 2nd and 3rd. So this coming weekend, both Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
Okay.
Kurt, how are we at on the improved services on that? I knew you talked about, you guys were just looking at possibly internet and long-term things on some of those things with MPW. How are we at on some of those items?
We still, the biggest holdup is the back order on our end from Bill does not have all the equipment in. Electricians are to get, we have our security boxes are in place. Electricians are to get in there this week to hook electricity into those security boxes. MPW will come in after that, run all their cables into those security boxes. But I talked to Bill last week and we're still on back order on our devices that go in there to spread it out. So whether we're a month out, 2 months out, Bill cannot give me that answer.
Okay. Well, again, the
But we are
cabins
moving
are completely
forward.
nice. I know.
It
there's
seems kinda
Hey,
ironic that you're looking at technology in a cabin. It's like, that's what you're supposed to be getting away
Hey.
from. Fishing poles.
Well, you
are
got,
gonna be
we
done
do have fishing poles. I've already been there a few times and I absolutely love it, but if you got the grandkids that come over and they wanna listen to their music, they're over here asking what the Wi-Fi password. And I'm like, there's nothing even there. Like, I don't even
listen to
know.
the cicadas.
Yeah, there you go, that's something for you.
Again,
We are
Kurt,
still working.
I appreciate that. The cabins are unbelievably, great additions and assets to the county. I think when somebody gets out there, they realize the costs are unbelievably good. And I think it's a really well-run setup that you guys have, and I'm looking forward to expansion as we get on there. And I think the more people in the community see it, I think that's nice to look at when I see a lot of different license plates. They're not just Muscatine County residents, and I think long-term, when you guys can come back in and say, hey, in the last year, we had, 25 different counties in Iowa, and, who knows, from all over the state, that you've got done. So I think it's great.
And I'll also update you at the board meeting, I don't know if Scott already did, at the board meeting last Monday night, the board did approve to bring Bolton Mink back in to do an update on our master plan and define where the campground and cabins can go on the north end of the park where, because of that
Okay.
high water a few years ago, we're gonna have to move where the initial site was, so
Excellent.
we will be moving forward on that starting next week.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. All right. Any other county employees? All right, moving on to item number 13, receive comments from the public.
That's Virgil.
Anybody from the public here that would like to sit? Mr. Virgil, if you'd like to come up and say,
Yeah, give your name and address for the.
if you
for the
could just
public
say
record.
that.
shout louder here?
I think it's a great
Whatever you like.
opportunity for the camera to get a good view
Well,
there.
If you've got your map in section 36, Lake Township, we've got a situation there, it's a dead-end road, and unfortunately, the maintainer man don't maintain it very often, but enough. But I have a grandson out there that told the maintainer man, stop grading this road because we don't want people down there. And it's a favorite fishing spot, and it's a cutoff between our two farms that we can come down if you wanna, if you've got your books, well, it's in, Lake Township, the far
I don't have a.
southwest corner of Lake Township, right down by the river.
Southwest corner of Lake Township.
Yeah, they go down there and cross the levee and go fishing.
Oh, I got nature
Just
conservancy all
farmland,
over.
yeah.
Cedar Township is right to the left of that, okay, anyhow, what has happened, the maintainer man pays attention to him and don't grade the road. It rains and it's a gravel road, but you're stuck. He needs to just continue to grade the road so that we can use it. Not much traffic there at all. We're not asking to gravel the road more. It is a passable road even when it rains. So, I think you have to have the county engineer tell the, guy that's grading the road, don't pay attention to them people. They're not in charge of it.
I see.
You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it's just, they're trying to keep their
Yeah, you-
area there.
Yeah, we got a minimum, you know, it's, what, is that is that like a B? Do we know, what's the road, is that a class B?
I don't, initially it's not, I don't remember after you pass the
Yeah,
structure if it is or
Yeah.
not.
Then you go clear down
You
to
just
the
go in
levee,
between two
and then,
fields
and then
down there.
you'd go,
if you go to the right, that's a private road to Virgil.
Whether it is or it isn't, it gets
Yeah,
Virgil's
minimum
property.
Right,
maintenance is
yeah,
what it
yeah.
gets.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
that
it
gets,
cuts it.
that gets
And
to
it
these
flows.
old,
And-
these
yeah, and it cuts
minimum
across
maintenance,
over there
ABC
to the
roads
farm.
and the challenges we have with them when, anytime somebody sees a road, they think it needs to be like a super highway, and that's
Yeah,
not what
it's
our
not,
intention is.
you know,
It's-
It used to be open and come out up on, the clear, well, not C road, but, X-43.
Independence.
And, that's where that, but they closed that road in 54, 55,
A little before my
down
time.
through our farm.
Just right around the corner from my time.
There wasn't very many of you.
Who remembers that?
Come on, Virgil, get something. I can
Nobody
remember.
here knows those. That's good. No, we
Sorry.
appreciate your feedback. That's good. We know that you have that experience.
Trying to figure
Yeah.
out.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I went to the engineer's office one day, the first time, and they took care of it, and they graded the road and, brought it back, but evidently my grandson said, stay off of it. So he has no business telling a county employee when to grade the road or whatever, so.
Well, we will have some follow-up on it, and hopefully we'll be able to get some addressed
Thank
issues
you
there.
for bringing it to our attention.
I don't get around much,
I don't even have
but
one of those
I like
books,
to
though.
go between farm to farm, and that's the way we did
Yeah.
for all these years. And when it rains, you're not go to, you have a four-wheel drive tractor, you get through on a gravel road, so.
All right,
All right, thank you so much, Virgil.
I don't think it'll take much to correct the situation, you just, the people when
Yeah.
do it have to tell them, you
Right.
gotta grade the road down there, instead of what somebody else tells them,
To do.
stop it.
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Virgil.
right, Virgil. All right. Any other comments from the public? All right. Any more for the good of the board? All right, hearing none. It is 10:17 and meeting adjourned.
Perfect.